Okay, so my name is Shannon Knight. I'm a technical project manager at Minitab here in State College, and I've been a project manager formally for about 7 years, first in a research environment and then in software development. Um, I've worked with teams where several of the team members worked at home on a regular basis, where we had team members who were in remote offices. The last company I worked at had a very flexible working environment. So people weren't always working 9 to 5. People weren't always working in the office. They might work at home a great deal of the time. So I have had experience with having at least part of my team working remotely most of the time. I've also been a remote employee, so I've been on the receiving end of that. I've worked as a QA engineer, a tester of software. I have sort of a broad definition of a virtual team, and it's any group working on the same project who use technology as the main means of communication instead of face-to-face interaction.
Okay.
This could mean that the team is physically located in different areas, either in remote satellite offices or because they work at home on a regular basis, or it could mean that the team is separated temporally, so like shift workers. They could work some part of the team work during the day, the other part in the evenings. It could also mean that the culture of the company is such that people avoid each other. And so they just happen to speak to each other and communicate more through email or instant messaging or some other technology-based forms of communication than they would interacting face-to-face. Well, in most businesses, it all comes down to money. It's cheaper to have your employees working remotely. In some ways, if you don't have to have a fully staffed office, it can be less expensive for the company to not have to spend as much in terms of rent or utilities. They can save on office costs. It can also be a benefit to the employer when you have an employee that's been there for a long time, a very senior employee who, for personal reasons, is leaving the area, and you want to keep them working for you, but they're not going to stay. They're not going to stay in that location. So I have seen it work where the employee works remotely from their home in their new location, and continues with the same company. In some ways, the collaboration, communication does have to increase. Formal communication does have to increase, just because that's the only way for the team to interact. You do lose that chatting with each other by the water cooler or playing foosball in the cafeteria. You miss the informal communication that you get when everyone's located in the same place. One is that they're more likely to focus more on just the work, which employers are probably going, yeah, virtual teams all the way. Less chatting, but what this can lead to is that there's less buy-in to the entire team. There's less teamwork. There's less personal investment in the project. So in that case, you're less likely to get employees who are willing to go above and beyond. They're going to work their 40 hours and that's it.
Right.
Whereas if you do have a real strong sense of team and a real strong sense of ownership in the project, you can get people who are willing to work longer hours or deal with more stressful situations than they would normally. The other thing with virtual teams that you don't see with teams that are in the same location is that minor spats are more likely to become silent feuds if you have virtual teams. Whereas when you have to see someone day to day, you either have to deal with it or it blows up and it's obvious, as opposed to something simmering that you don't quite know what's happening. Well, I don't think there's anything additional than than the skills that a project manager needs for managing a non-virtual team, a local team. It's more a matter of being really, really careful to document everything, to make everything available to all the team members, and to inform the entire team on all decisions. So by email and writing, or by posting information on a team website, and also being sure to follow up with individual members on a really regular basis. One of the problems working remotely is that you start feeling remote from the rest of the team. I'm speaking from experience as having been a remote employee, and it's in many ways up to the project manager to make sure that person feels included in what's going on at home base. So phone calls, sending email just to say hello, just to check in, things that you do normally with a local team just by walking by someone's desk and saying hi. You have to make sure and make that extra effort to do that with the remote employee, by telephone or by email. Well, definitely self-motivation. You're more likely to have to structure your own day more so than you do when you're working in an office full-time. You also, no matter what you do in an office and what your office environment is like, in some sense, people are always watching you. Even if they're not really watching you, there's always people there, and there's always the awareness that the other people are there. And if you're working remotely, you don't have that awareness that there's someone always relying on what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Not even that they're necessarily watching you, but they're always relying on what you're doing, and there's not that urgency of that need when you're working remotely. Mm-hmm. So self-motivation is a big one. I also mentioned self-sufficiency in the notes that I took. Just being able to manage your own time, answer questions yourself, since you don't have all of the resources available immediately that you would if you were working in the home office. Being responsible, that's a big one. Yeah, but in some ways you have to be more responsible when you're working at home than you do when you're in an office. And also another really big one that we've touched on is communication. You have to be able to communicate with people at a distance when you don't have all of those nonverbal clues that we get when we're talking to each other face to face. You have to be able to clearly state in a succinct way by email or instant messaging or whatever what you need to tell the rest of your team. You also need to be consistent about communicating with the rest of your team. Mm-hmm. Doing it on a regular basis as opposed to waiting for people to come and ask you for information. Extensively. Well, not just with a virtual team, but with any team I work on. I maintain a project website that has all of the information about the project, so that anyone at any time can go and look up things, look up the requirements, the goals, major decisions, meeting minutes. Everything is on that website. Any major decisions or changes to the schedule or the requirements, or major changes to anything, I send in an email to the entire team. And I do that for not just for virtual team members, but for any team that I work on. But like I said, it's really important to be sure and do that quickly and immediately when you have virtual team members. Right now I use just email that my company provides instant messaging. The website I built just in HTML, and I'm a diehard. I just write it in text. I don't even use any tools because
Right.
we do have we use some meeting software. I think it's Microsoft Live Meeting Placeware software, so that the remote employees can see what's happening on the screen of your computer and watch the demo or the presentation at the time that it's occurring.